There we go, that's off. Now where is she gone? Oh, she just moves so quickly, it's impossible to keep up with her. Well, we're going to try and keep up with her and try and kind of get there. So, like I say, it's just more to just kind of tell everybody I'm not hunting you, I'm not coming after you, stop shouting at me, leave me to kind of carry on, and then she will move on. Now, there's a nice big termite mound. I'm hoping she's heading towards there. Just given where the other cars are, that's what I'm hoping she's going to head to. But with this long grass, it's making life very difficult, as Taylor and Craig have got first-hand experience. Can't see anything, and you end up going down ditches, you end up kind of hitting stumps that you don't want to be hitting. It really is a nightmare when you're off-roading in conditions like this. It's not ideal, and hopefully we're going to see a situation where it's going to start drying out at some point, and the grass is going to start dying back a little bit, because at this stage it feels like we're going to be taken over by grass and we're going to be enveloped, which is not ideal. Oh. Poor Rusty at the moment is just getting a bit of a beating. Anyway, we're going to try and find where Thandi is. Oh, there she is. She's just ghosting past us and kind of moving forward. But while we do that, let's send you back across to Taylor for the answer to her feather quiz.
I bet you're all so excited, sitting on the edge of your seats, wondering what feather was I holding up. Well, it's this one again. You can have a look at it. So, there were many different answers, good guesses, well tried, but the correct one was from Michelle, who guessed a Franklin, and the crowd goes wild. You now have birding bragging rights. You're quite right. This is from a crested Franklin, which is really cool. I've never ever found one before, which is surprising because there's so many raptors out here that do feast upon crested Franklin and Tull spurfowl and all those different types of things. We've gotten a Tull spurfowl added to the list after the African hawk eagles was eating one yesterday, so that's quite nice. I'm adding lots and lots of new feathers to my collection. I will have to, at some point, on a quiet drive, take them out and then have a look and see how many I actually have now. Basically, when I just pull apart one side of my book where I store my feathers normally, my goodness, just so many of them. But I'm always on the lookout for them. Wonderful. It seems as though Thandi has been so lovely this afternoon. Tristan's got another look of her.
Well, I'm not sure Thandi would be, being lovely would be a way that I would describe what we've been through today. She's been an absolute delight and a little, good as gold leopard as she's moved and posed so nicely for us non-stop. But anyway, we're in a slightly more open section, so I think we're going to get a good view of her for a little bit now, which is quite nice. Hello, girl. You've given us the runaround today, haven't you? You see, she's sniffing about. This is her little tactic, is she likes to do this. She likes to kind of go in these long grasses and try and disrupt a scrub hare or a duiker or a steenbok and then go after it. But let's just see. Just sniffing around and looking. I think this is the longest she's been still this whole afternoon. You can see her ears, her left ear in particular, has taken a bit of a beating in the last few weeks. If you compare that left ear from photos in December to now, you'll see it's a lot more tatty than what it was. So I think that's where Shadulu must have got hold of her. She's got a big cut inside that left ear, and then the other cut is on her right inside leg. Now hopefully she walks straight towards us, and we'll be able to show it to you. There it is. You see it there. It's difficult to see, but there's a big gash under her sort of... There it is. Hello, Thandi. Hey, my girl. Nice to see her. So she's such a cool leopard. I could sit all day with her. She drives me crazy because it's so tough to keep up with her, but she really is the most epic of leopards. So hopefully she's going to go up onto this termite mound. There's a nice termite mound that she's heading towards, and if she goes up there, it's going to be absolutely beautiful. There we go. Good girl. All right, let's get ourselves into a better position, and hopefully, Viam, we can get you a sunset with Thandi, which is what Viam's been wanting for quite some time. So let's try and just get around and see. Oh, go up there, girl. That's it. That's it. You're in the right place. Now let's just try and get ourselves a little bit further forward. Viam, you say when. Of course there would be a poll today. try and just get the pole out the way. But how beautiful is that? Sunset, and Thandi kind of backdrop by that sunset is as good as one could ever ask for. So she's kind of spoilt us a little bit in that regard. That is absolutely beautiful. Finally, so a bit of perseverance and patience has been rewarded with our girl sitting on top of a mound with the sun setting. Vim, that's 2 sunsets and leopards in the space of a few days. You're on a roll, exactly. It's very good job. Well done, Wildy. It's not easy to get them. And now she's said, that's it, boys. We're not spoiling you too much. We're going to carry on and see what else I can find. Of course, she was just up there to look for any signs of food items that could be in the area. Now, I'm going to try and kind of keep up with her through here. This is the same place we lost her the other day when we followed her through hell and back. And so I'm pretty sure we're going to go for a nice little walk through a very big thicket. Now, I'm going to try and get out of the mess I've gotten myself into. So while I do that, let's send you back across to Steve with apparently an iconic view.
Iconic view indeed. It's getting prettier and prettier by the second with the iconic bird of Africa, the African fish eagle. Surveying his territory. I've only ever seen one fish eagle around Djuma, Chitwa Dam. I'm not sure where the second one is. Oh, there are 2. Ferg's seen 2. I've only ever seen 1 at a time.
Around.
See, I'm pretty sure it flew up there from the dam where we were earlier, and it is enjoying the same sunset view that we've been watching for the last few moments. Well, absolutely gorgeous skies, gorgeous birds. You can hear the starlings in the background making a whole lot of noise. Nice one, Ferg. That's beautiful. One last view of the setting rays of the sun. The sun is gone already, but just the last rays as they paint the sky and the beautiful clouds. What a beautiful world. Thank you, Ferg. Now we're going to move on, folks, and there doesn't seem to be any sign of the little chief coming down. We're going to have one more little go where we last saw him, and then barring that, we'll decide on what to do next. Off we go. Got a little bit of a squeak in my left wheel, which often happens when we get mud in there. It's the mud moving through the wheel bearing or the brake pad. It seems like Tristan, though, has managed to get another look at Thandi, so let's go quickly over to him.
We do indeed. No, don't go down the mountain. So we had a view of Thandi, but it didn't go. Now you've got a moth on your lens, VM. Let's get rid of it. Off. Hey, there we go. So moth is gone. Now we are going to have to make space, though. There is a vehicle that does want to come join, and we've been in the sighting for quite some time, so we're going to try and get one last kind of view of her before she goes into the real dense stuff and the guys lose her, so that at least the other vehicle can get a chance and can have a sort of good look before it gets too dark, because inside here it's going to be very difficult for anybody to follow her, and so I don't want the other guys to lose out. So I'm going to try and get into a situation where we can at least give her a little chance, well, give them a chance to come in and have a little look, because she's in stalk mode once again. So she's not going to go back to the cub. The way that she's moving around is in a situation where she's hunting. She's not wanting to try and kind of go to the cub right now. She's trying to find food, and so the chances of us being led back to the cub this evening is probably very slim. We're going to have to hope that she's successful in some way. Now we're going to do some minor gardening quickly. There we go. It'll all just should pop back up, I hope. Anyway, good. I think, like I say, let's try and leave it here with the other guys. And that's so that they can get a chance, and like I said, there's somebody else that needs to come through, so we're going to let them in. And like, it's just, I don't even know if I can get through here. She's just to our right hand side, BM. Can you see her through there? So before we kind of leave her for last time, there you can just see her spots through the thicket. Right, now she's still kind of moving around, and I think she's spotted something again that she's busy stalking. But while we kind of figure out what she's doing and try and figure out a way out of here, let's send you back across to Taylor and see what she thinks about Thandi's shenanigans this afternoon.
Thandi shenanigans. I'm just glad that we've managed to catch her again, because she seems to be the one that gives us the slip all the time. Now, we're looking at some very old lion tracks, or from the last few days. It was quite nice to see. As you can see, the big, let me try hop out of the way, big male tracks. So here's the back of the foot, so big, it's huge, and then the toes. And then here's the front foot over here. It's been stood on over by the back foot. And very cool. I mean, they make my hands look tiny. It's incredible. Really, really cool. I'm hoping that we get to see some male lions soon. It's been quite some time since I've last seen a big male lion. I think the last time was the Birminghams, when there were 3 of them, just off Mvubu Road, quite close to one another. I think that, that was literally the last time that I got to see a male lion track. I mean, actual male lions. Seen many a male lion track in the last few days. They just seem to be MIA at the moment. Now I've got a thorn in my pants. Right, let me get rid of that. It's always funny when you bend down or you sit down on the grass, you collect all sorts of things. Let's see what else we can find here. A little bit quiet on the bushwalk. I haven't actually seen very many insects at all today, which is surprising. I thought as the day sort of warmed up, because it definitely did that in comparison to this morning's temperature, I thought that they all would have come out after the nice rain. The only thing that has been out and about are all the birds. The birds have been very chirpy and very chatty this afternoon. I think they're quite excited. It looks like, although it looked like the rain was going to go, but it looks like there's another embankment of clouds moving on in. We have to wait till 11 o'clock. Oh, very cool. Look at all the ants on the road, running around, trying to make use of the last light of the day. Right, off you go to Tristan, who apparently is having his heart broken.
I don't know what Taylor said, but Thandi is kind of, every time we try and get out, she just pops up right next to us and gives us a nice view. I was having my heart broken by Thandi. No, not today. I'm always joyous when I find Thandi. Yesterday she broke my heart. Yesterday she was being a pain and wasn't letting me find her. So she broke my heart yesterday. But today it's fine. As long as I find her, I'm happy. And as long as we can see her and moving around, doesn't matter how long it's for. It's just nice to have a kind of view of her. Now, we tried to tell the other guy where to go, and I don't think he's actually going to be able to get in here. It really is a horrible nonsense place. There's quarantine in the distance over there. So the dam and quarantine on the other side of this thicket. And so what I want to try and do is just help these guys, because these guys that are here with me at the moment said they need us with our car, and the other guy said it's fine. He's going to stand by on the nearest road, and once we get to the road, then we're going to just leave her with the rest of them. So that's the kind of plan. What's she spotting? She's slinking around all over the place today and bouncing, and she's almost like I got a bit of Tigger in her today. She's sort of all over the place and being a very typical leopard. And this is why you've got to love leopards, is that, and why we have a situation where, like I say, I like Thandi, because you'd never found her. If it wasn't for those first alarm calls, it would have been a long afternoon of trying to drive around in circles. And I mean, she's walked on the road maybe 4 minutes out of this entire afternoon. And so it just goes to show why we struggle to find her sometimes. We pick up tracks for her, but then you've got to go through thickets like this and bushes, and it's zigzagging all the time with her. And it just goes to show that's why it's so difficult to find leopards from time to time. And now she's a relaxed cat. Can you imagine a cat that doesn't want to be seen? How easy it would be for them to hide away. And just goes to show why we don't see the likes of Djuma and even this female with the 2 cubs that are on Buffelshoek, who are, by the way, pushing further and further south. The tracks for them were seen yesterday on the Buffelshoek Djuma cut line, which is pretty interesting. So they are slowly but surely pushing south, and I wonder if one day we're not going to catch them on a kill somewhere. Sky, I'm not sure. I mean, it doesn't seem like it. It seems like Thandi, in fact, is actually pushing more into this area and back to the central parts since she's had that fight rather than going away. So it's going to be interesting to see how this all works, and interesting to see whether or not Thandi is backing down, or she's now saying, well, I don't care that you're here, I'm coming back, and I'm going to make sure that you don't come and take my area. What we really want, though, is we want a situation much like what Thandi and Shadow had, where Thandi was to the east, Shadow to the west, and they kind of then settle on that, and we have a situation. There she goes. Oh, she's chasing a duiker. So there's a duiker just in front of us that's just run off to the left. Now, I don't know where she is. Oh, she's just disappeared. There she goes. She's right behind it. So she's just come out behind the duiker. That's where the duiker went. The duiker was no more than, I would say, 30 meters in front of her. Not even. Let's see. She's just sneaking through. Typical leopard. How are we going to keep up with this? I have absolutely no idea. But we're going to try. I don't want to disturb this hunt for her either. Maybe this little gap here we can use. As soon as I can see the duiker, I can turn off. The duiker, can you see it, Liam? So behind there apparently is a duiker, and then Thandi should be in tow fairly shortly. She was also kind of bolting off in that direction as well. I don't know. Let's try and get round. That's a little branch there. That's not ideal. Oh. This is a very, very pleasant bush to drive around in. Where is she now? She must have run in this direction towards where I am. I've lost her now. Maybe just... The guys are next to me here, so I'm just checking further south. She should pop out here somewhere, so we should have a situation where we should be able to see her there. Is that her there, Bim? Straight ahead of us, basically. Where these guys are. Nope, that's not her there. Alright, so we're going to have to try and sort of do this and try and find where she maybe went. While we do that, let's send you back across to Steve.
Thank you very much, Tristan, and well done for keeping up with Thandi for as long as you have. We've got a little family of Nyala here. I'm just trying to get position to see if we can get them on film. They have just disappeared in the bushes there. Very similar sort of structure to what we saw earlier with that kudu bull. There they are, Ferg, just moving through there. Also getting our IR lights ready.
Sorry, the one came to me when I was busy.
You just see the Nyala off to the right here as they're moving. Not very easily seen. Just... There goes one. Just the ears and the stripes and the pole. Apologies. And there was a male as well lurking behind, but they all seem to have... Oh, here they come. Here comes the male. And very similar to we were seeing the kudu earlier, the male following behind. Here comes another female. It'll be shortly followed by the much larger and dark chocolate brown horned male nyala. 3, there he goes. Nice and stealthy in the long grass, aren't they? And that is about as good a visual as we're going to get of them this afternoon. We have decided to come back onto Djuma, and we are on our eastern boundary. Cheetah Cutline had one more little look for the little chief, and he has not materialized. So who knows where he's gone. Okay, then allow them without disturbing their peace. Here come the striped individuals now. They are a very beautiful animal. You see how they walk in that very sort of deliberate line, all following each other, and as their front foot steps, their back foot steps in the exact same spot. There is, it looks like a little bale. Did it have horns there? No. Very pretty. From Torchwood into Djuma. Have a look where the back foot steps, exactly where the front foot was. That is very typical of the Tragelaphus family or tribe. It is the way that they walk. The spiral horned antelopes. Almost on she's got an injured leg, that one. She was very much on her tiptoes. She did look like she had high heels. And this is a good way to learn tracks, is to watch animals walking, like I did with the steenbok earlier, the little digging. Watch how they walk, see where they walk, and then go there and have a look. And then you know for a fact this is a Nyala bull, this is a Nyala cow, this is a young Nyala. Because you can get confused between kudu and Nyala tracks, especially a big bull like that versus a female kudu. It's easy to get confused. They walk very similarly. That direct register. Azura, kudu, Nyala, eland, and bushbuck all come from the same family or tribe known as the Tragelaphus, all Tragelaphus genus, meaning spiral horned, and the Nyala is the smaller of the two when it comes to kudu, where you get the bushbuck, which is the smallest, then the Nyala, then the kudu, and then the largest antelope in the world, the eland, which gets close to 1,000 kilograms in weight. And they also walk like that, but you don't always see the way they walk, because they don't often walk, they often run. When they run, they don't leave the same indentation on the floor. So marvelous indeed. Well, it looks like Tristan and his very relaxed Thandi, who loves him so dearly, does not want to let him go. Let's go back over to them.
Well, no, we don't, but it's only because she's being a handful and is difficult to follow during this afternoon, and it's made it very tough. But like I say, luckily the Land Rover's being shorter and smaller, can get through these places, and that's the only reason we've stayed with her, is just to try and keep her for the other guys. Now that she's settled on top of a termite mound, we're going to leave and let the other guys get in. We're right next to the big jackalberry off Gowrie Cutline, which is the perfect place for anybody to enter into the sighting. So we're going to be courteous and let them in now while she's still sitting, and try and go and see what else we can find. It's been an epic afternoon of off-roading and putting Rusty through the paces. Poor Rusty, I think, is aged 20 years after this afternoon's game drive, but luckily she's finally kind of settled down, which, like I say, will allow the other vehicle to get into the sighting, which is very good news for them, because we don't want them not to see a leopard. It's always nice for everybody to share in a bit of leopard fun. Look at that tail. She's still watching something, so she's not going to be up there for very long at all. Right, let's carry on. Let's see what else we can go and find and see what there is. And while we do that, let's send you back across to Taylor so she can say goodbye.
Yes, sadly we are going to have to go home soon. We're quite far away though. So Eggsy, aka Zander, our editor-in-chief, editor, he is coming to rescue us. Not that we need rescuing, but it's quite nice to call it a rescue vehicle, isn't it? But we are safe, don't worry about that. We're just bumbling down the road now. It is a little bit too dark to be sort of walking through the thicket now. The light has faded quite a bit. Now tomorrow, it depends on how much you enjoy the bush. That would really determine how long a bushwalk is. I mean, obviously our bushwalks that we do here are slightly different, so we tend to do 3-hour-long bushwalks. If it's in the afternoon, it's always light dependent, and because it's quite an overcast evening, we're going to probably have to head home a little bit earlier. However, when I'm with guests, I mean, I've done the bushwalk, which is the worst bushwalk you can ever do in your entire life, which is between game drives after breakfast, which is normally about an hour to an hour and a half. It is so hot and unpleasant. If you come to South Africa, I promise you right now, substitute one of your morning safaris and go on a proper bushwalk. That was my favorite thing to do with my guests, was to say, right, we've seen all the most amazing animals. Let's not walk when it's, 39 degrees Celsius and you've had breakfast and you're tired because you've been up since 4:30. Let's enjoy it. Get up, have a nice cup of coffee, watch the sun rise from the lodge, and once it's light enough, off you go. And then go and do a 3-hour walk like you would do a game drive. It is so cool. So that was my favorite way to do bushwalks, but not everybody enjoyed that. I mean, obviously you have to understand that when you do a bushwalk, the chances of you seeing big animals on foot are about this big. About this much. We're going to talk about plants, we're going to look at insects, we're going to look at track and sign of the bigger animals, but the idea of a bushwalk is not to see how close you can get to the animals. If you're just lucky enough to stumble across a herd of elephants drinking at a dam, great. If the conditions are fine, then you can view them. Otherwise, you typically leave the big game alone and you focus on the smaller thing. But it's really quite nice to get sort of in touch, sort of do more of a holistic walk than sort of chase after the big animals. It's obviously exceptionally dangerous to do something like that. Obviously, it's very different. Herbie's a trained guide. I'm a trained guide. Craig, of course, has been in the bush now for a fair amount of time and has learnt from us. So we'll, of course, instruct him, but we don't have guests with us, so we know what to do straight away. Now, I don't think I've ever been lost on a bushwalk before, Gabriel. I can't say that I ever have. The only time that you typically get lost when you're on a safari, when your guide can get lost, is if they're new to the area and it's dark. Because then everything changes. Now imagine on an overcast night, you can't see the stars, you can't see anything, and it's completely sort of pitch black. Then that's when you typically get lost, and that's when I've been lost a few times. And then you drive around until you find somewhere that's familiar. And the best advice I can give to any up-and-coming guides is when you start working on a new property, or perhaps it's your first job in the bush, make sure you get to a familiar spot or have sundowners at a familiar spot, because typically sundowners end up going into sort of this crepuscular period that we're in now, this sort of last light, and sometimes even a little bit further if you're having a great time. And then at least if you're at that point, it's very, very easy to find home. But don't go exploring in the middle of the night, because I promise you're going to get lost quite easy. Right, our chariot is here. It's time for us to get in the big green van and off we go. I'm going to send you across to Steve and Tristan for the rest of the afternoon safari.
Thank you, Taylor. Taylor's 100% correct when she says bushwalk is not necessarily about the big game. It's about surrounding and immersing yourselves in the smells, the sounds, and the little things. And taking one out of their comfort zone is probably one of the biggest things a bushwalk can do for someone. Even if you don't see animals, the tracks, the thought, the anticipation of seeing something dangerous really makes you stop thinking about all of the things that occupy most people's minds on a 99% of the time. Your brain goes quiet and you think about yourself in the moment. It's a very meditative practice, a very spiritual practice, and I've quite often in the past taken guests on silent walks where for 3 hours we don't speak. Now that is very, very powerful. Obviously we still point things out, and I'll point to go listen or show them something or give them something to smell or feel, but no vocabulary at all. That is when you get really deep into it. And I have changed some people's lives doing that. Even an hour doing that in the bush will change your life. I can guarantee it. Because we feel we need to label everything we see. Everything that comes up in our mind, we have to label. We see it, we label. And as soon as we take away the need to label something, we don't think about it in the same way anymore. We start imagining ourselves as part of the system. And that for me is a very powerful practice, which I highly recommend doing. I don't know how well it would work if I took you all on a 3-hour silent game drive. I don't think Bex, or game walk, I don't think Bex and FC would be too happy if I said nothing when you came to me on the segments. We could try it though. We have tried it. Bex would think we've lost audio and be quite sad. She'd think we're giving her the silent treatment. Sorry, Bex, we'd never give you the silent treatment. We love you dearly. Steve's Silent Safaris, eh? It's got a ring to it. Does indeed. Okay, so we are right up on our northeastern boundary. Who knows what we might find, but while we do that, let's go to Tristan, who has left his girlfriend.
Oh, very funny, very funny. Ah, there's a hyena. Let's rather go that way. So there's a hyena across from us that's going down towards this impala carcass on the dam cam. So let's try just get down to the impala carcass itself. Now, we have left Thandi. Like I say, we tried to get the other guys in, but she got up as they were pulling in and went into a sort of different area that I doubt anyone's going to be able to follow her. It's really not pleasant in there at all, and so I'm pretty sure it's a situation where they're going to struggle to keep up with Thandi, which is unfortunate. I was trying to get out as quick as possible so that guy had a chance, given he was so patient with us. We were there for quite some time, so I felt bad, but it's the way sometimes it goes in the bushes. You have a situation where there's kind of, following an animal through thickets is not very easy. Now, where's our hyena? Right here. There we go. Hello, you. Are you coming straight towards us? Now, I'm surprised this hyena's not gone towards where the impala carcass is, because the impala carcass is just on the other side here. It's sniffing around. Rebecca, do we know if this hyena's been eating on the bones yet? Maybe it's already fed, and that's why it's kind of moving off. It seems as though it's got a fairly full tummy. No, nose to the air. Maybe it's going to try and find this in carcass. But definitely sniffing about, isn't it? It's got its nose to the air, kind of working things out. It's eventually, if it hasn't been to this impala carcass, it's going to find it. Hyenas are very good at this. Look, there we go. Now, I think let's go and position ourselves at the carcass itself and see what goes on. No. It's moving away, funnily enough, from the carcass. It's sniffing about all over the place. I wonder what it's sniffing for. So, let me just let the other guys know. Station Ngari Dam, there's one hyena. It looks like it's going towards this impala carcass. Let's see, there we go. Still nose to the ground, still sniffing. Wonder if it's maybe going to head towards where Thandi is. It's kind of just up in front of us now. Sorry, VM, I forgot you're on IR already. So there is IR that is kind of on and doing its thing. Now it seems as though this hyena is already kind of smelt, or is still trying to smell what's going on. So I'm unsure as to where it's going or what it's doing. What you doing? You're running about all over the place. Back down we go. So I think it's trying to find this carcass. It hasn't quite picked up exactly where it is, but it's trying to find it somewhere in this general vicinity. So it's going to be funny to kind of watch this and to see what's going on and whether or not they're actually going to be able to pick it up eventually and eat it, because there's still something for hyenas there. Even though nothing for a leopard and nothing for vultures, still something for these guys to be able to eat. But this particular hyena doesn't look as though it's got its thinking cap on, or like I say, it's already finished what's going on here. There's an impala watching the hyena. It's just a hyena impala, don't worry. You're okay. see now. I just want to try and get round. Hyena is still walking away. I was hoping I was going to go to that carcass, but it seems not. Maybe it's filled up on elephant already today. No, there it goes. It's just running away from us at the moment, so let's just turn off here. At least we got a nice clear view, but I love watching them when they've got their noses down to the ground like this and they're kind of walking along, sniffing and trying to work out exactly what's going on. Off it goes down into the thickets. So I think that we're going to probably leave this hyena to itself, given that it's going the complete opposite way to where we are at the moment. Good, that was a nice little surprise. I didn't expect to see that as we were kind of coasting along on our little evening bumble. Hello, Impala. Djuma, because we know the trees and bushes and what species they are. So as soon as you know what species they are, you know which ones you can drive over. And that's pretty easy, given that they all have different shaped leaves, different type of bark, different type of sort of appearance. And so that makes life very easy from that regard and that point of view and standpoint. So at this stage, that's how we kind of do it, is you see in front, okay, those are bush willows. Bush willows are soft, pliable. At that size, we can drive over them. Then you'll see something like that in front of us, which is a wattle, which is far too big and thick, and you're not going to drive over that. Or this in front of us, this big stand of trees, which is tamburtis. We know those are protected species of trees, and so therefore we're not going to drive over those either, and we'll avoid them. So it's what the appearance of the tree looks like, and knowing what trees are what, that help you to be able to not drive over them and to be careful about what you're doing. So we try and avoid all the sort of endangered species, protected species, say, and so that birds, tamburtis, jackalbear. What else we got in this area? That's Cape Ashes. What am I forgetting? Bolusanthus. So we yeah, Bolusanthus would be another one. I'm just trying to think. Knobthorns. There are lots of different species of trees that we get out here that we shouldn't drive over. Right, now while I kind of figure out what I'm going to do, I need to find my spotlight. I need to work out, oh, there's our hyena friend again. I need to work out what I'm going to be doing. Let's send you across to Steve, who's got his spotlight out, looking around himself.
I do, and we just had a small nightjar in the road. We tried to capture him on the camera, but sadly he flew off, or should I say she flew off just before we came over. That's okay, we might find another one. Paula would like to see a chameleon. I'm going to do my best to find you a chameleon. We are just arriving at Buffelshoek Dam as we speak. The hippos are still in the water. We're not going to shine the light at the hippo, but we will switch off for a moment here just to have a little listen, and I'll have a little scan around to see if anything is deciding to come down and drink. Still the 3 resident hippos at the moment. We are in IR, folks, infrared. Very eerie evening at the dam. The rain clouds have all but disappeared, and I think we might have a nice warm day tomorrow. It's been a rainy few days. Here, the blacksmith lapwing. There's 2 of our resident hippo. Wonder what time they are going to venture out for their nightly feeding. Gizmo, it is very pretty. It is always nice to spend time near water and to just switch off. It's a very powerful thing. Even just a few moments of silence can be very, very powerful. For most of you out there who live in cities will know that it's incessant noise, and you get used to it. You get used to it. But out here, there's no sound, there's no engines or generators or car noises when you switch off. It's just the sounds of the bush, the birds, the bats. Sometimes just a gentle stroking of the wind through the long grass. So very, very quiet. We're going to move off shortly, but let's go over to Tristan, who's probably got his spotlights on now, and he's bumbling.
I do have my spotlights on, and I also have a birdie in the road. So we have a nightjar. Hello, little nightjar. Now I wonder what this nightjar is busy doing. So BM's going to go into color because we are kind of sitting right in the road, and I've got my headlights on, and that's why it's there. It's sitting waiting for little insects to come where it can then explode up out of the road and grab on whatever it needs. Now you can see that they're nocturnal birds. Look at the size of the eye in comparison to the rest of the head. Massive, massive, huge eye with a short little beak, and those amazing kind of whiskers that they have that come out of that area to help them with being able to detect animals that are in flight, or moths and insects, and that they can then grab them as their eyes close when they open their beak. Because remember, as they kind of open their beak to grab an insect, their eye nictitating membrane is going to come down to protect the eye, to make sure that they don't get hurt. And there we go, off they go. And then they do this little flight off the road, catch something, and then back they go again. Now I figured out that Rusty, for some reason, does not like to have its lights on and then be restarted. So Rusty doesn't want to start. Nope. So we'll have to just give it a break for a little bit. Rusty sometimes does this where it just doesn't want to start, and I wonder if it's maybe something to do with our relays again, but let's... Nope. Okay, now, sorry, Rebecca, Steve's talking so much on the radio. Steve's a very big chatterbox, and you were asking something about how much do birds eat a day. Is that what you said, Rebecca? How long do birds sleep for? It depends on which bird we're talking about. So a nocturnal bird is going to sleep all day, and a diurnal bird is going to sleep all night. So generally they sleep from when the sun sets till the sun rises, or wake up as the sun sets and then go to sleep as the sun rises. So they sleep for quite a long period of time. Obviously they're going to wake up if things disturb them. So if you drive along and you find something like a dove sitting in a tree, and you shine your light and you drive right at the tree, it'll wake up and fly to the next tree. But for the most part, they're going to try and avoid kind of flying around at night, and they're going to try and sleep all the way through the night itself unless something disturbs them. So that's kind of the usual thing. Now come on, Rusty. Really? Right. There we go. That's because Rebecca was making fun of me and being nasty. So Rusty just showed Rebecca very quickly there how it actually works. Anyway, we've got Rusty back up and running, so let's send you back across to Steve.
So Rusty, I believe, needs a little bit of a delicate touch. I used him yesterday with no problems at all. I think it was in the morning though, so I think it might have something to do, Trist, with the spotlights and whatever it is else you might be working on the alternator. But I am no mechanical expert, but I would assume that. We have a little party of hares here. Wow, 4 of them. Oh, marvellous. To mind my head, let's have a look at them in the IR and see if we can get them doing their thing. A little hare party. There was at least 4, just to a 5th one off to the left. It's marvellous we're able to see these things with infrared. Just switch up, see? Ooh, I wonder what's going on. There we go. It's busy. Let's have a listen to the pearl-spotted owlet. Oh wow, looks like they want to box. I've never seen more than 2 hares before. The pearl spotted has stopped calling, but he might call again in a moment, as these hares are busy grazing. Ooh, there's all sorts of antics going on here. And quite relaxed because the lights are off, so it's good to be able to see their normal behavior. I've never in my life spent any time with hares. Normally we see them with the light and they just freeze. Oh, they're behaving in a very hare-like manner, it seems. Zero, it could be indeed be mating season. I have honestly no idea. They've come together in a little party here. Maybe it's I don't know. I really don't know. They might be competing for some mates. To be honest with you, this is the first time I've ever experienced this. We normally see 1 or 2 hares at a time with a spotlight and they stand very still. I've never seen, I think I've counted 6 already now. Busy grazing and grooming, scratching the back of the ear. One thing is for sure, I've never seen so many scrub hares and scrub hare tracks in my life as I've seen in Djuma. And I am sure this is one of the reasons we have so many leopards, because there's so many scrub hares. We form a nice little aperitif or an hors d'oeuvre for the leopards. And what we do know, the scrub hares have got a very poor digestive system. They don't have a very good set of teeth when it comes to breaking down the food material. So they just munch on a little bit and then goes into their stomach when they cecum. They've got a sort of a hindgut fermenter type of digestive system. And then before they go to sleep, they'll generally defecate outside of their burrow or their warren, wherever it is that they're sleeping. And when they wake up in the morning, they will eat that dung, re-digesting it for a second time. It comes out much more digested than the first time. This is marvelous, Ferg. Have you ever spent time with hares before like this?
Not like this.
So similar to the digestive system of a zebra, they feed on quite a lot of food. And the fermentation happens in the enlarged cecum in the back. Welcome to the show, Monique. I'm loving that you're loving this sighting. There's lots of ears and lots of hairs. And it's marvelous to just be able to spend some time with them. Look, he's eating a leaf. I didn't know they ate leaves. Indeed they do. He's eating more leaves. I'm going to try and find out once he's finished eating what leaves they are. They're quite long and lanceolate in shape. It almost appears to be either a jackalberry or a guarri. He really is a hungry chap though. They've just come out the night time. I wonder if that was a leaf or if that was just a grass leaf that it ate, because I didn't know hares ate leaves off of trees, and I'm thinking it might just be the IR light that is making it look like it was a tree leaf.
Fleshy grass.
Was it a fleshy grass leaf? Okay, good.
So, yeah.
That's what Fergus is saying. Fleshy grass leaf. He's eating the inflorescence of the grasses though. Marvelous. We have a bit of a bunny roadblock at the moment. Okay, well, since we found the first night critter, let's go over to Tristan and see if he's had any luck.
Well, we've had a nightjar, Steve, which is a night critter, so I feel like we've had some luck, and we had a bush baby that unfortunately jumped out of the tree and down into a drainage line, so we couldn't show you guys that, but we did have one of those. Now, I was actually just discussing with Wiem this female leopard with the 2 cubs that's being seen in Buffelshoek fairly regularly at the moment, is what I would say. I mean, it's not every day, but she's been spotted a few times recently. And I was asking Wiem if he was with me the one day when there was a sighting of the Nkuhuma pride very close to the Buffelshoek boundary, and while we were sitting with them, and I'm sure some of you might remember this sighting, we were sitting with them and all of a sudden the impalas started to alarm call north of the boundary, and the Nkuhumas went running northwards and into kind of Buffelshoek. And then we had a leopard cross behind us, and a very kind of shy leopard behind us, and then run south into a thicket. And so I wonder if maybe that female leopard is the same one that's being seen with the cubs at the moment, because I believe her tracks are all around the Buffelshoek boundary, just north of the Buffelshoek signboard, which is very close to where we actually saw that leopard. So I wonder if that's why she was here. She maybe was trying to mate with some of the boys at that time, and she was kind of coming into Djuma, because I also remember very clearly seeing lots and lots of female leopard tracks in this general vicinity and never really finding a female. And we always used to say, no, it's Shringila, she's kind of moving around in these thickets. And I wonder if it's not that young female, or that female, I don't even know if she's young, that skittish female that was running around in this area and just kind of trying to mate for that period. And then we had a brief visual of her crossing the road and going over. I don't think we even got her on camera that day. She kind of crossed behind me and we just had maybe a glimpse of a tail or something like that. I can't even remember if we actually did get it on camera or not. Ah, there's a butterfly. Let's go back quickly. Hopefully it's going to stay still. Oh no, it flew. Liam, can you see it there where my spotlight is? I don't know if the pole's in the way. Okay, I'm going to keep my spotlight on so that Wiem there in the middle of the spotlight, Wiem, you have pretty much got it. So I can't see what kind of butterfly it is. It looks like maybe one of the bushveld browns or something like that. Difficult to say with the light. The light is pretty much making everything around it orange and making it orange itself. But this little butterfly that's just sitting on the grass stems, just going to rest for the night. Now, I don't want to blind it with the light, but we thought we'd just show you quickly because we're not seeing many butterflies. Maybe it's an evening brown. Is there a butterfly called an evening brown? It seems to ring a bell for me. Now, here we go. Rusty's going to start its nonsense. All lights off. I feel like this is Steve's fault. Steve said he drove this car and that he had the touch, but I think it's all Steve's fault. Now, Monique, in terms of nocturnal butterflies, I'm trying to think of any that I know of. Maybe, like I say, the evening browns might be out around dusk, but I don't think there's any fully nocturnal butterflies, not like diurnal moths. I'm just trying to rack my brains and think about it. I don't think so, actually, to be honest. I might be wrong. Maybe Steve knows, and we'll have to ask him. Now, come on, Rusty. Here we go. My goodness. Rusty's not being good. So I think the battery on Rusty is probably not doing very, very well. So we have to be nice to Rusty and hope that Steve hasn't broken her. While we do that, let's send you back across to Steve and see if he's keeping Wendy alive.
What have I broken, Tristan? You're the one driving Rusty, not me. And if anything, Brent is the one who's been driving Rusty for the last however many weeks. So do not look over at Steve, who's driven Rusty once in the last month. Only once, and that was yesterday. And she was fine yesterday morning. Pradeep, I didn't mean to call the rabbit, or the scrub hair rabbit. It's just kind of a slip of the tongue. Most people will get them confused. They are quite different. We don't get any rabbits here in the park itself. They are slightly different in the way that they breed and the way they behave. But I apologize for confusing you there. Thank you for calling me on my mistake. But a lot of people like to call them bunnies, bunny huggers as well. I think it all falls into the same sort of category, a rabbit or a hare. But they breed differently, Pradeep. And rabbits are known to be born with their eyes closed and naked in a burrow in the ground, whereas hares are born with hair on their body, as the name kind of implies, and their eyes are open, and they're born under just a bush, so just like something like that or like this, not very well secured from predators, and they're able to follow mum around from quite an early age, almost immediately, and suckle, which gives her a lot less sort of stress when it comes to feeding and bringing food down or coming down into the burrow to actually suckle. It's actually able to move around with mum from an early age. So that's the major difference. I think there are some morphological differences between the legs and the ear legs. Pradeep, what do I mean naked? I mean they have no hair on them at all. They are born just with skin and no hair. So that's what I mean by naked. And they slowly grow hair as they get older, just like we humans do. Some babies are born completely hairless on the head. Others genetically have got more hair on the head, but they're born naked. Hares, on the other hand, are born with hair on them, and they're able to keep themselves warm, their own little pajamas from birth. And whereas the rabbits are in burrows in the ground, which keep them relatively warm anyway. So that is one of the differences. Hope that answers your question. Still no chameleons, Paula. I'm sorry. They're very camouflaged today. Well, they're always very camouflaged. Lisa, you have just said something to me which sounds quite ghastly. I did not know that rabbits usually eat their first litters. I've never heard of that before, and I don't think hares do it. If they do, it's not some information I've ever come across. So, very interesting. Why a rabbit would eat its first litter is beyond me. But if that is true, well, I would love to understand why. Doesn't make too much sense to go through the whole gestation period and the fetus and all of the birth that comes about it to just eat it. Because as far as I know, rabbits are not carnivores. They are vegetarians, and very interesting if that is the case. Very interesting. No worries. Looks like he's staying with me because Tristan has broken Rusty once again. He needs to be delicate. He needs to be gentle and talk kindly to her. Let us know, Bex, if we need to go give him a hand, because we'll give him a round of applause. Of course, Wildebeest. The Wildebeest is with Tristan, VM, the cameraman. We call him the Wildebeest. He is incredible when it comes to fixing things and making things and inventing things. And he seems to have fixed Rusty. Of course, leave it to Wildy. He will sort it out. So we're going to make one quick turn at that impala carcass. We need to go over the dam wall here at Djuma, Vuyatela Dam. We're approaching it now, and maybe that lonesome hyena, Tristan was with earlier, has managed to finally figure out from which direction the smell of the carcass is coming from. Shamsung, very good question. Salt licks and animals. There are a number of reserves out there that will put out all different types of licks depending on the nutrient deficiencies that are in the area. You specifically say salt. It all really depends on the area. Soil samples are done in areas, and you can actually figure out the deficiencies that are missing. So, for example, copper, potassium, phosphorus, salt is one of them. I don't know if anyone in the Sabi Sands does it. but anyone who's got small game farms, they definitely do it to provide animals with extra nutrients in times of low sort of nutrients in the environment. But in the Kruger National Park and things like that, they don't do it. They want animals to basically naturally go about whatever it is they need to go about, to struggle if they need to struggle. Okay, well, that is the impala carcass there. That is completely, if you haven't seen it before, is completely finished. That impala is definitely officially dead. This morning he was still a little bit warm. There it is. And on that note, to a car that has started, let's go over to Tristan. From myself and Ferg, it's a good night.
Well, our car has started, but no thanks to Rusty being a helpful hand in this whole thing. VM and I had to push start it down the road, so we did a good job, I think, because given that there's only two of us, to push start a car is not the easiest thing. So well done, Vildy. And Vildy jumped in and managed to get it while I was just kind of the weight behind the whole vehicle this evening. So we managed to at least get it running and get it going, which is fabulous news, and at least we can get ourselves back. I think it's just a little battery problem that we should be able to sort out fairly easily, I think. We'll see. Seems like it. The fact that we push started it generally means a sort of battery issue. Right, now remember that we are in a situation where we might win an award, and if you want to see James Henry give a speech and sing and all these other things that he promised last night, go and vote for us on the Webby Awards. You will find all the details on the Safari Live Facebook page. We're in 3 different categories. We apparently are doing well in 2, but not so well in the 3rd. So all of you to go and, if we can make it a clean sweep. Wouldn't that be nice if we got all 3? That would be wonderful. So go and vote if you like what you see. Anyway, it's that time of the evening where we need to head back home. We're going to go and put Rusty in the medical bay, and well, maybe Steve too, given that Steve has been full of beans as well this evening and full of chirps. We might have to kind of get his head checked. But anyway, from Steve, Taylor, myself, all the cam ops, Rebecca in final control, it's been an absolute pleasure, and we'll see you all tomorrow morning on the Sunrise Safari.